Welcome to tonight's Facebook Live. I am Kristen Boice, a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I am joined by the lovely Roxie Stone. Roxie, do you want to tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
I am a licensed clinical social worker and a licensed clinical addiction counselor, EMDR trained, and I've worked in the field of mental health for a long time at probably all different levels of care, from inpatient to outpatient and IOP and partial, and have seen individuals and groups and couples, and I just have had a lot of experience in the mental health field. So.
You have a wealth of knowledge, and I am so happy you're at Pathways. So I want to invite everybody to give us a shout out, say hi, give us a like so we know you're seeing us. Last time we did live, we didn't realize it, but nobody could see us or hear us. So if someone is on and can write in the comments that you see us, just say hi, or if you don't want to, that's fine too. Then we know that you're actually seeing our faces. So welcome. Feel free to say where you're from. If you want to give us just a hi or a like or a heart, that would be great. That way we know you're hearing us and seeing us. So if you can't see us, oh, I see a couple of hearts and likes. Thank you. That lets us know we're good to go. So thank you so much. We are so thrilled that you're joining us tonight on this very important topic. It's more prevalent now than ever, and it's one of those topics that people avoid talking about because it's really uncomfortable and it's scary. People don't know what to say. So tonight we're going to be talking about warning signs, risk factors, how to talk to somebody that might be having suicidal thoughts or an emotional pain, resources we're going to share with you tonight. So if you have questions, don't be shy. Feel free to drop them in the comments. A lot of us don't know what to say when someone's really struggling. So let's just jump in, Roxie, and talk about what are some of the signs that someone is really struggling emotionally and possibly having some suicidal thoughts.
There are a lot of warning signs. I think it's important to recognize, though, that just because there is a warning sign doesn't necessarily mean that someone is going to commit suicide. However, it is significant, especially if they're starting to add up. And it's mostly about noticing changes in behavior, in mood, those kinds of things. But I think in order to notice the changes, you have to be pretty connected in the first place, and to be paying attention so that you can notice when somebody changes. If somebody is talking about wanting to die or talking about suicide, that is a rather obvious warning sign, I think. Sometimes you might find somebody looking for means, like searching on the internet about guns or searching websites that talk about how to commit suicide. I wish they didn't have such things on the web, but they do. Um, Sometimes, if you notice that people seem to be feeling hopeless or are talking about hopelessness or loneliness or feeling like they're not fitting in, that can be a sign. Uh, Working with kids as school has begun, maybe all of their friends made the team and they didn't. Just noticing transitions, those kinds of things can be very, very helpful. Sometimes when people are feeling suicidal, they may talk about feeling like they're a burden to other people, and feeling like that their friends or family or whomever, their loved ones, would be better off if they weren't around. Or I know I've had some clients who talked about financially, I would be better, or my family would be better off if I were dead. Those kinds of things. An increase in alcohol or drug use can be another kind of sign. If you're acting really anxious or agitated, behaving recklessly, and then that's kind of an unusual pattern for you, that could be a sign. Sleeping too much or too little, um, socially withdrawing and isolating can be signs as well. Um, Talking about revenge, rage, extreme mood swings, Um, Another one that I've seen a couple times with clients has been suddenly giving away prized possessions. Kind of like passing it around, and I want so and so to have this and to have that, and giving things away. So there are a lot of things, and a lot of them are associated with change. And a lot of them are coming in times of transition. Adolescence certainly is a time of major transition with all the hormones hitting, and friendships developing, and kids are trying to figure out, who am I, what kind of person am I, what kind of person do I want to be. And certainly, in middle age and older people. And the reality, though, is that we have all gone through major transition in the last 6 months. It has been just absolutely overwhelming and has affected everyone in different kinds of ways. And one of the things that we're seeing is a significant increase in suicide, not only calls to suicidal, crisis lines, but attempts are on the rise. Suicide suicide completions are on the rise. Hospitalizations are on the rise. We were just talking before we went on air about the current lack of bed space in this area right now, simply because there's so many people in hospitals. So it's a really significant problem. If someone has a history of trauma or abuse, that's can be another, another risk factor. Um, if there's a history of prior attempts, if there's a history of suicide in the family, sometimes especially when the child reaches the age when the parent completed suicide, that can be a time that is really stressful, and a time that the person may be more at risk. Um, I think having access to lethal means makes it easier, certainly. And if the access isn't there, then the impulsive suicide can't happen. Um, so, if guns and ammunition are available, then it can, clearly. Um, Sometimes if you're in an area where there's not, excuse me, not sufficient health care for, especially mental health, substance abuse care. I don't think that's true for around here, but certainly in some of the rural areas, that might be, another risk factor. Um, and there's still the stigma, the stigma of going for help. I struggle with that. I don't know why that still exists. There are lots and lots of therapists. And if you look to see even the sales of psychotropic medication, you'll see it just keeps increasing. Not that I necessarily think everybody should be on medication, because I don't. But I think that's an indication that there's a problem for sure. And if everybody has a problem, and I think that a lot of people do, then it's hard for me to understand why the stigma is still there. I worked in a place one time where kind of standard story was, if everybody who ever experienced anxiety or depression or any kind of mood disorder, anything like that, would turn purple for a day, you would just look around and you would see a purple world. And yet the stigma is still there about looking for seeking help. It's hard to understand.
It is because I see a world in a major amount of pain,
Yes.
emotional pain. It's like, what's it going to take for us to really get this push towards mental health? What's it going to take? In terms of what I see, it should be up there as one of the top three issues right
Yes.
now that's going on in the world. And we don't talk about it. It's like the white elephant that we kind of talk about it and kind
Yeah.
of dance around it, but we really don't go there because we're afraid. People are afraid they don't know how. I think they're afraid to talk
True.
about it.
I think that's true too. Yeah, I think you're right. They absolutely are.
So how would a lot of clients will say, I'm afraid to ask because I don't want to plant seeds. I don't want to give the person any ideas.
Yeah.
What would you say about that in communication around
I
suicide?
think, first of all, that is absolutely a myth. I mean, research shows that it's what we don't talk about that creates the problem and the stress and the secrets and all of those kinds of things. I would highly recommend talking about it to the person, whoever it might be, and I would recommend doing it quite directly, and not beating around the bush. Like, I've noticed that you've been feeling really sad lately, or I've noticed whatever it is that you're noticing. Have you been thinking about suicide, or do you have any thoughts about harming yourself? Um, because that starts the conversation. And then it's important, I think, to listen. Um, I know you sent out an article over the weekend about it was important if somebody's up on the roof, for example, if somebody's suicidal, you don't talk at them or talk to them. You initiate the conversation and then you listen. And you listen with empathy and being non-judgmental, to try to find out, what is going on with this person.
So let's say they say, let's role play a little bit. Let's say they
Okay.
say, yeah, I just don't want to be here anymore. I'm a burden, and the world would be better off without me.
What, can you tell me more about that? Yeah.
How
Can you
would
tell
you?
me?
We'll role play it.
Yeah. Can you tell me more about that, Kristen?
I just feel like I'm just a burden. I mean, it's just, I don't even know why I'm here. It just doesn't even matter. I don't matter. I just don't even want to be here anymore. I'm tired of it.
That feels like that must be really hard for you to be here in this
Yeah.
world right now. Yeah.
Yeah. It sucks. And it doesn't seem like it's going to get any better.
How long have you felt like this?
Yeah. I felt like this for a long time. A long time. It's just gotten worse. I mean, nobody cares about me. I'm alone.
Hmm. Hmm. It's hard when you feel all alone in this world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah. Sometimes when people are feeling like that, they start to think about harming themselves. Is that something that's going on with you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really want to talk about it.
Yeah. I bet you don't. It's hard to talk about.
Yeah. And I just don't even want to go there.
Yeah. Yeah. Because if you went there, what do you think would happen?
There's nothing good. There's just
Nothing good.
no, there's just
Oh,
no
you
point.
feel pretty hopeless.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry that you're feeling so hopeless right now.
Yeah. Just
Yeah.
pointless.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So when you've thought about doing something to harm yourself, can you tell me a little bit more just about that part?
Yeah. I mean, I thought about just taking the pills, just
Yeah.
taking a bunch of pills. Just that would probably be the
Yeah.
easiest way to go.
That would be the easiest way to go. Yeah. Yeah. What kind of pills would you take? Have you thought about that?
Yeah. Just take a bunch of aspirin.
Take a bunch of aspirin. Mm-hmm. 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 Do you have aspirin in your home?
Yeah. Yeah. That's easy.
Yeah.
I can just run to Target or Walmart,
Just run to Target,
CVS.
pick up some aspirin or something like that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So have you shared that with anybody in your home?
No, no,
No.
they would think I'm dumb and tell me how stupid I am.
No.
Know how dumb that is. So no, no, I wouldn't. No, no,
No.
tell anybody.
Yeah, that's got to be hard to carry that all by yourself.
Yeah,
You
it's
know?
pretty
Yeah.
lonely.
Yeah, you must be feeling pretty desperate. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm tired of hurting. I'm tired of
Oh,
hurting. I'm just in pain all the time.
oh, I'm so sorry. Where do you feel your pain?
in my shoulders and my whole
And your
body.
shoulders and your whole body.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Mhm. Are you able to tell me more about the pain?
No, I think that's about all I can do now.
That's all. That's
I'm
about all.
I'm
Okay.
down now.
Okay. Okay. So, have you thought about any sort of timeline associated with when you might think about the pills?
Yeah,
Yeah.
thinking this week, maybe
This,
even tomorrow or tonight.
tomorrow or tonight? Yeah. Mhm. So, what has kept you here? You know, it sounds like you've been thinking about this for a while. So, what are the things that keep you interested in living?
My dogs.
Your dogs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, my dogs.
your dogs. Tell me about your dogs.
I love my dogs.
You love your dogs?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
just love me unconditionally. They're not like people. I hate people, but I like my dogs. My
Yeah.
dogs are kind and they love me unconditionally, and so I really like my dogs. They don't
Yeah.
hurt me.
No, they don't, do they? Yeah. I love dogs too.
They're not mean to me. They don't tell
No.
me I'm dumb or talk
No.
down to me or
Yeah.
make me feel bad about myself.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like they're really special to you.
Yeah, I really love
Yeah.
my dogs.
Yeah. What are their names?
Dobby and Maker.
Dobby and Maker. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. They must love you a lot.
they do. They
Yeah.
they think I'm pretty cool.
Yeah, I bet they think you're pretty cool.
They get
But you
excited
well,
when I get
yeah,
home. Nobody else
yeah,
is excited to see me, but they are.
but they are. Yeah. Well, and they're pretty important to you, aren't they?
Yeah,
Yeah. So it's great that they're really excited to see you.
yeah,
Yeah, it is. Have you thought at all about what would happen to your dogs if you weren't here?
yeah. I thought I'd leave a note, and my neighbor probably would take them.
Yeah,
They'd be okay without me. I think the neighbor would take good care of them.
but they would miss you terribly.
Yeah,
Yeah, they would.
yeah, probably would.
So what if we could try to do something a little different maybe?
Like what?
Like maybe, I don't know for sure, maybe you and I could work together to come up with a plan to make things better for you.
Are you gonna leave me?
Nope,
Are you gonna abandon me like everybody else?
no, I won't.
How do I know that?
Well, it's hard, especially I think if you've been abandoned by other people, I think it's hard to find some trust in somebody else who says, no, I'm not going to abandon you. But I won't.
I
I'll
want to
be like,
believe you.
I know you do. I'll be like your dogs.
That will
Yeah,
like, yeah, don't believe what she says. And then
yeah,
there's the other part of me that says that feels really nice.
yeah.
There's
And
like,
maybe we could grow that part that feels really nice, where it's, where you're telling me it feels really nice, and we could just kind of work to grow that. Is that because I'm going to be like your dogs. I'm not going to leave you. And I can say that because I have dogs too, and I know what dog loyalty is like. And I'm going to be as loyal to you as your dogs are. I'm not going to let anything happen. I'm not going to abandon you. And I want you. I want you to be around. I want you to live.
you're the only one that does. And my dogs.
Okay. Well, then that's three. That's three.
All right. I guess I will work on, I guess I'll I guess I'll give it a try.
Okay. Okay. So give it a try. Because, you know,
Try.
if you give it a try, then that's all I can ask right now, that we give it a try and see what happens. And all along the way, we can renegotiate, and you can tell me what we need to do, and together we'll come up with a plan and see what we can do to make your life better.
Thank you. Thank you, Roxie.
Thank you. Thank you for trusting me. I know it's not easy to trust somebody. I know it's not.
I don't trust anybody.
Yeah, I
Trust
know.
the dogs. And that's about it. I don't
I
trust
know.
anybody else.
I know.
Everybody else has only hurt me, left me, abused me.
Mhm.
So it's really hard for me to trust people.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's really hard, and I feel really honored that you're going to give me a chance to earn your trust.
Nice job, Roxy. That was a role play.
You're a tough one, Kristen.
I didn't. I was. What I noticed and I felt from you as I was doing the role play is your compassion and your empathy and your attunement and your care. I felt like you really, really were with me and you cared about me.
I do.
And you weren't afraid to go there. So this is what you and I know we're professionals, but what we're trying to show is how you meet someone where they are and offer empathy. Um, and you just showed up with compassion and stayed with me. You
Thank
didn't try to fix it.
thank you. No, no. Well, I can't. You can't fix it, and I think you have to go into it with the belief in what you're feeling, what you are feeling, that it's real, and there's no point in me sitting here telling you, oh, it's all going to be okay, everything's fine, and and stop it, or whatever the things that people say to each other, that turn people off like that,
I'm getting a lot of feedback that your empathy came through, and Missy has some students watching, some masters, 13 students
Oh my
getting their
gosh.
master's in social work. And validation is so important, Michelle says. Great role play. And Liz is saying you have a soothing, calming voice, and she would trust you. So it's really showcased in that role play the significance of empathy, warmth, nurturing, and compassion.
Good.
And
I didn't know we were going to role play.
yeah, we did. That was totally spontaneous.
Yeah, it was.
Through Roxy, I was like, let's role play. You didn't expect that. I didn't expect that. That was just a leading I got. So I was like, because I think it
Okay.
helps people to see it and
Good. I hope
experience
so.
it, because we're afraid we're going to say the wrong thing, do the wrong thing, and then the person's going to be worse off.
Yeah. Seriously, one of the things that I have found in working with clients is, if I say the wrong thing, you know, they'll correct me, and I can make amends and maneuver again. It's better to talk with them and say it and be direct, and have the tough conversation, than it is to be silent.
It is. And the other thing I noticed about how you approached it is your tone. You have already a soothing voice anyways, but your tone, you softened even more and you leaned in and you really were engaged. So your tone, I'm talking a little bit louder now so y'all can hear me on this live, but watching the tone works with the nervous system. So if someone's had a lot of trauma, they're in a lot of emotional pain. And if you lower your voice, that automatically can soothe that nervous system even more and create a felt sense of safety in the nervous system. So that was the other thing that I noticed, that your tone was really soft and soothing. So noticing your tone, softening your facial expressions. I thought that was really important to point out.
Okay.
And the other piece is This idea that if we do, like you said at the very beginning, if we don't say anything, that actually is more detrimental.
Mhm.
What we don't say is actually more detrimental. What I did with my kids, I have two teenage daughters, and it was Suicide Prevention Month in September. And so we're kind of on the back end of that, but this is to help keep the momentum going of suicide prevention. And I talked to them about it. I said, have you ever been suicidal, had suicidal thoughts, thought about harming yourself? I talked to them, I put it on the table, and we talked about it. We talked about, yeah, there's been times where I have felt so overwhelmed by school or homework or friends or whatever. I haven't wanted to kill myself, but I've thought about just, I wanted all that pain, all that stress to go away.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's important. Oftentimes it is that not necessarily I want to die. I want to get rid of the pain.
And the
Whatever
stress,
that takes.
yeah,
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
overwhelm. And they don't know how
Mhm,
to handle it. And so we just talked through it. It was like, yeah, I don't want to do anything. It was a fleeting thought for a moment.
mhm,
And that's what I encourage people to do is bring it to the table, talk about it.
mhm,
And when you can breathe through the discomfort and your fear and nurture yourself through it, that's when we can bring things to the light.
mhm.
When is there a concern? So in that role play, there was several concerning things that I reported to you. What were the concerning things from your end that I reported?
Oh my goodness, from the get-go. Yeah, you didn't want to live. You had the plan, you were going to take aspirin and you could get them, and you're right, you could go get them at Target or whatever. That nobody liked you, that people talked down to you and weren't very nice to you. You didn't feel seemingly that you fit in anywhere. You seemed pretty hopeless. You mentioned that people had abused you. I mean, it was like, you were just ticking down everything that puts you at really high risk, I think. That, if we didn't get some kind of agreement for something, you're really at very high risk. And still, I think at this point you would be at high risk because all you're doing is all you agree to is you're going to give me a shot, you know and sometimes I think that it's better to go in for a little gain than to try to get a big gain and fail. If I can get you to give me a chance, then I think that it's it that we have a shot at working this through.
Yeah. So the concerning things were my intention, like my background, my red
Oh
flags,
yeah,
intention, my
intention.
plan,
Hmm.
the means, and a timeline. So
Yeah, yeah, you had it all.
those are the four boxes we're looking for when we do an assessment.
Hmm.
Like how intentional is the person? What's their history? What's their background? Do they have means and do they have a timeline?
Yeah,
And if they have those, then we're going to up. They need more additional support because there's a safety issue there.
absolutely.
So, what would be then your recommendation if someone's hitting all four of those categories?
If someone is hitting all four of those categories, then one of the things that I would recommend is that they get a further assessment and go through probably the Columbia to see at what level of care would be beneficial. Um, and that would be like from some place like St. Vincent Stress Center or Community North, to get an evaluation, a more thorough evaluation, and especially if you're not willing um, to go along with the plan. you know um, in this instance, I probably would have wanted to see you again right away, for sure, or make sure that somebody is seeing you right away because, tonight or tomorrow is when you're planning this, you know. So yeah, I would want to do all of those things.
So, what are the options in terms of assessment and care for people that don't know what the options are?
Well, around here, typically Community North or St. Vincent offers hospitalization. They also offer partial hospitalization or PHP, and that is where you are in the setting, about 5 hours per day, Monday through Friday. And that consists of a lot of psychoeducation, and you would see a doctor and talked about medication and those kinds of things. And then the next level of care down is intensive outpatient, and that's also called IOP. And then you are in IOP for 3 hours, 3 times a week, and that also includes a lot of education, and you're still connected medically as well. For adolescents, they typically also have like a family group once a week that comes in maybe for an hour, hour and a half to talk about family issues and those kinds of things as well, and aftercare. And then typically they're referred to outpatient therapists. Uh, so it's usually a kind of a gradual step down.
And that's for safety, stabilization, coping strategies to
Right.
reinstill hope.
Yes. Yes. And then in the meantime, family members or friends or loved ones, whoever that might be able to come into the home and make it a little safer if possible.
That would be locking up medications, getting rid of alcohol, any sharp objects, any
Guns,
firearms.
ammunition, yeah, those kinds of things. Getting rid of doing whatever you can to make it as safe as possible. And realizing that obviously, like you pointed out, I can go buy aspirin at Target. So, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And so the role play was to encourage encourage people to lean into the discomfort, breathe through it, take a deep breath, and watch your tone, lower your tone, listen, ask how the person is feeling. Like you did a nice job of role playing how to approach the conversation. And if we need to engage in another, enrolling them and getting help, you started to do that with asking me to basically commit to
Hmm.
giving you a try.
Yeah,
And that's pretty much the same kind of language if we need to do something more escalated like an
right,
inpatient stay. We're
right.
really enrolling the person to say, "Hey, this is a safety issue, and
Absolutely,
I want you to live."
absolutely,
Is there
absolutely.
more you would add on to that?
Um, I, I think that I want you to live, and uh, depending on the situation, it may be a situation where realistically, I can't let you leave. And I would be very honest and upfront about that. I mean, you have said this and this and this. You said that you have a plan, you have intent, you're going to act now. I can't let you leave. And so I need to take whatever steps that are needed in order to keep you safe.
And
And then follow through with taking the steps. And I would do that in front of the person. I would do that without secrecy. Another thing that I think is really important if you are dealing with this particular situation is that there are no secrets. You don't keep somebody's suicidal plan a secret. You just absolutely don't. You can't.
because you're going to save a life potentially.
Absolutely.
That's the key here.
Absolutely.
You're
Yeah.
saving a life. Even if the person gets angry with you, they're mad at you, that's where you take a deep breath and you say, I'm saving a life. So what are the resources for folks that may need to kind of keep these handy? What do you have those resources to share?
I do. I do. I don't have it memorized, so I need to read them. Okay. Okay.
Yes, no
Around
problem.
here, yeah, Community North has an 800 number. It's 800-273-8255, or the local number is 317-621-5700. St. Vincent is 317-338-4800. Or you can text hello to community. And just text, so you text it to 741-741, and they have trained people at those places who will respond to you. and who will talk with you. If there's a substance abuse issue, Fairbanks is here locally, and their number is 1-800-225-4673 or 317-849-8222. There's an overdose hotline where you could call 211 and get somebody to come immediately with Narcan. Prevail is a local agency that deals with domestic abuse, domestic violence. Is 317-773-6942. So there are lots of resources around that you can call for help. And if you're dealing with someone who is suicidal, um, have the conversation, and listen. Don't try to preach at them. Listen and find out what's going on, and contact these places to get help. There are also lots of outpatient therapists in this area. That you could call um, to set up an appointment.
And you can always
So
call 911. So if you're really
that's
struggling,
true.
you can call 911. And I like this suicide hotline, the 1-800-273-TALK. They are
Mhm.
trained, they do this 24/7. This is what they do. And this Facebook Live is not a substitute for counseling or therapy or therapeutic advice. So I feel like we need a ticker at the bottom. This is simply to help equip people to lean into these conversations. If we can teach people how to have them, we are going to change the stigma around mental health. Everybody struggles at times. We may not all get to the suicidal level. And when we can talk through it and talk about it and hold empathy, we can change the conversation. There was a question in the chat about what's the difference between a contract for safety and a safety plan. And
Mm,
that's something that goes on between a therapist and a client, just to clear
yeah,
that are
and there's
tuning in
a
that might
huge
not
difference.
know. Yeah.
Uh, uh, a long time ago, it was said that simply contracting for safety was sufficient, and actually it isn't, because all that is the client says, I will not commit suicide, and signs it. I mean, essentially. Sometimes there's some time frames added to that, but that is a suicide contract. Um, I have
There's
been
a
taught.
sound. There's a sound. Something going on with the sound. I don't know if there's
Is
a
there?
paper. There you go.
Uh,
Keep
okay.
going. Yes,
Okay.
it's better now.
Anyway, one of the things that I was taught was you you can do a contract for safety. However, in the event of it going to court, it is not going to hold up, because the attorney is going to say something about this patient had a diagnosable illness like depression or something like that, and you would say yes, and then they come back with, and you contracted with a mentally ill person, and therefore you may be more liable. And the client doesn't really have anything associated with that other than, I won't go kill myself. A safety plan is a whole different thing, and it includes, um, first of all, a plan. What do I do if I'm feeling suicidal? And typically, there are a list of things that offer comfort, and that could be whatever works for the client. Like, it could be, knitting or coloring or taking a warm bath or listening to music or playing with my two dogs, Dobby and Maker. Um, whatever it is, a whole list of things, so that you can do this and this and this and this and this, and try to de-escalate, try to calm yourself, and like you were talking about, self-soothing. The other thing that is part of that plan is a list of phone numbers, a list of supportive people in your life that you could call to talk about, hey, I'm really having trouble tonight. Things are just really tough. Whatever happened, I got fired from my job. Whatever the situation is, I'm really having a tough time tonight. So there's a list of your phone numbers, and you need several different phone numbers because you never know, somebody might not be available. And then the list of crisis numbers as well. So you have all of these kinds of things. And in the event that none of this works, then you would try to ultimately call your therapist, or call whoever the therapist has on call, something along those lines, call the hotline, whatever it is. So it's a whole list of things for the person to do in order to help themselves stay away from the committing suicide or doing something to harm themselves. And ultimately, sometimes it ends with, call 911, or go to your nearest ER, or go to Community North Access, or the Stress Center Access, those kinds of things. So it's a whole list of things. The contract is simply, I won't commit suicide. So it's much more involved and much more inclusive of the client, and they play a significant part in coming up with their safety plan as well.
And the
Yeah.
support system is really important in that
Yes,
safety
it
plan, is
is.
having a support system and people that are going to check in. Like if someone discloses this to you, check on them, text them, how are you?
Yeah,
How are you
absolutely.
feeling? I'm just
Yeah.
thinking about you. I care about you. Let's get together. Let's get on a Zoom chat, whatever.
Yeah.
Stay connected with them, check in on them. And that's part of that safety plan, is that support system.
Yes, definitely. And the follow-up that you're talking about is very important. That, the feeling connected, and the follow-up greatly reduces the chance that they're going to act on the suicidal ideation.
Yeah. And there's some other questions, but we're out of time. And so they're more therapeutic for therapists. So we will take those and maybe answer those individually.
Okay?
So is there anything that you wanted to add before we close out?
Not that I can think of, other than it's critically important to have the conversation. And if you have the conversation, it is even more important to listen.
And
And
then if,
then
oh, I'm sorry, I cut you off there.
that's okay. Listen and then act accordingly to
Okay.
do whatever you need to do. Yeah.
Liz asked if someone's in another state or the phone and on the phone and they disclose this information, what is your suggestion? Let's say they're like the loved one is in a different state and they tell you, so you're not there physically. What would you do?
Well, I would try to talk with them and find out, are there other supports in and around that area. If worse comes to worse, you can dial 911, and they will respond in another state. You can get that to happen as well. But ideally, I think I would try to do essentially the same kinds of things that I would do in person, as would talk to them, and try to sort through it all and find out what's going on, and try to identify other supports if I can,
Yeah, you
and
can.
involve them if possible.
The other thing is if someone needs a wellness check, you can always call
Yes,
911 and have them
yes,
do a wellness check.
absolutely.
And so if you're physically not able to be present with them, you can call 911. You can call the local, you can call someone on their emergency contact list if you have
Mhm.
that.
You have that,
You
yeah.
know a family, somebody else in the area, you can call them in to be with that person, and then
Mhm.
that person can take them to wherever they need to go if that's what needs to
Right.
happen.
Yeah.
So knowing somebody's, I would ask who's, get phone numbers for family members if need
Yeah.
be. Or if you know the family member in the area, calling them, or if not, you can always call 911 if they're in immediate imminent danger.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you know all those things, that's great. Sometimes you may not know, and then hopefully you can find out from the person, or like you said, do the 911, or sometimes 911 can even tell you neighbors or something like that. I had that happen one time to a person. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah,
And don't be
yeah,
afraid to make the call. It's a matter of, saving a life. And so
uh,
when in doubt, reach out. It's scary and it's hard, and and we're afraid we're going to sever a relationship, and you care enough about the person to have the conversation, talk
Right.
about emotions, talk about how people are feeling, check in with people. And check in with yourself. Let's hold space for
Absolutely.
each other during this really hard time. And that's what I love about doing this work, is creating space where people can feel safe, seen,
Mhm.
heard, understood, and feel like they matter and they're important. And that role play was how to do that. That showcased how to do that and how to create that. So thank you, Roxie, so much
Thank you. Can I
for
just
your
add one quick little thing? If you are walking through this with someone, don't do it on your own. I mean,
yes,
you know, reach out to somebody. This is hard. It's really hard to walk the suicide walk with someone. It's really hard. You know, reach out, get support for yourself too. Just that's all.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Yeah.
thank you so much. Thank you everybody for tuning in.
Thank
Feel free to
you.
pass this along. There, it will be available on the Facebook page as a replay. So if you're watching this later on, feel free to drop replay down there or pass it on. You can share it. So if you think there's someone, you can do it in private messenger. You can do it in very discreet ways. You can send them the link. So just know that if someone's struggling, this might be what they need to hear, that they do matter, they are important. Please know we care about you. Don't give up. Call a therapist. It's okay to ask for help. There's so much shame in asking for help. We all have so much shame. And when we can say, okay, I'm going to reach out for help, that is so significant. So I want you to know you matter, you're important, and you're loved. And please know that we're here to not, to not do this alone. There's so many people out there ready to help and willing to help. So thank you, Roxie. Thank you, everybody,
Thank you,
for tuning
Kristen.
in. And hopefully, everybody has a wonderful evening. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.